2024, our last show of the year, our movie reviews on Frankiesense More. I'm Frankie Picasso. I'm here with my co-host Brent Marchant, and we are going to discuss some great movies with you today. Welcome. Hi,
Hey,
Brent.
everybody. How is everyone?
I think we're good.
Yeah,
Cold, but good. If you live in our hemisphere, warmer in others. But yeah, I think we're doing pretty
well, it
good.
is December, so I mean, it's to be expected.
Yeah, I mean, the jolly guy's going to come. It should be a little bit cold, a little bit red, a little bit white.
Well, and December is also a time when we expect good movies to start coming out too. And we've got definitely some good ones today. So,
All right. Well, let me
all
just.
right, so let's get started. Um, our first movie is the one that everyone has been talking about for months, and everyone is talking about now, and that's the blockbuster musical version of the stage play Wicked, which tells the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good Witch of the North, from The Wizard of Oz. Um, this is a movie that's been receiving so much hype ahead of time. And I'm always a little bit skeptical when I hear a movie get that much advanced billing, in terms of how good it's supposed to be. But this one, in my opinion, absolutely lives up to everything that they've been saying about it. And it's rare for me to say that, given the fact that I'm generally not usually a big fan of musicals. But I like this movie so much in terms of its music, its choreography, its performances, its cinematography, production design. I mean, just everything across the board. It tells the story of how the two women met, became sort of reluctant roommates and then best friends. And then by the end of what this is, it's the first part of a two-part movie.
Yeah, a
Uh,
3 hour, two-part movie.
yeah.
They got smart though.
Um,
They broke it in two.
you find out that their relationship is headed for challenges.
Yeah.
And but everything about this is just it's so well executed. And to a certain extent, I think that may have been due to the fact that this has been a production that's been in the works for a very long time. So they really had an opportunity to get it right, and they did. And that's something you don't always see take place in the movie industry these days. Um, the performances by the two leads, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, are just outstanding. They've got two good supporting performers there in it also, featuring Jeff Bloom as the Wizard of Oz and Michelle Yeoh as the
Yeah.
sorcery school instructor. It was really well cast, well put together. I really can't say enough good things about this one.
I think Cynthia and Ariana, I mean, kudos to them. They tried really hard to become friends off camera
Yeah.
as well as on. So to build that relationship to make it feel believable and real. And I mean, Cynthia's an amazing actress. She really is. I mean, the way that she's got an English accent, but she comes off, she does it very well. Her Americanized version of that. And just, when she was in the last production we just saw her in, which was oh, who was she? She was help me out here. Who was she? She was in the
The last thing I saw her in was Harriet, the movie
Harriet,
about Harriet
Harriet,
Tubman.
Harriet
Yeah.
Tubman. She was Harriet Tubman, which was amazing.
Yep.
She's actually
Yeah.
she's a a hat trick, if you want to call it that. If you're a hockey fan, she
Yeah.
she dances, she sings, she acts, she does everything, and she does it really really well. And Ariana Grande does
Well,
great.
I was very impressed with Ariana Grande too. I mean, she showed acting chops in this movie that I didn't know she had.
Yeah,
And she just comes across as a natural in terms of her delivery of lines, her comedic timing, all that sort of thing is just like right on the money. Um, so, I mean, this is it was a great casting job putting these two together. And the director definitely got everything out of both of them that they needed to put forth to make it work. Um, this one is, like I say, it really lives up to every bit of its billing, and that's saying a lot for me as someone who generally does not like musicals.
yeah.
Um, the only real complaint I have about it, I guess, is the fact that I was a little sorry to see them split it into two parts. There's a lot of movies that are being told that way these days, and I don't know that that's necessarily a good trend for the movie
But we
industry.
complained the 3 hour movie that didn't get the break. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we did complain about that. I thought there was one part that was a little boring for me. I was almost ready to go, and then it for me, and then it got more interesting again. So I
Yeah.
thought there was a little leg that probably could have been taken out, maybe, and then it would have been a little more enjoyable for me.
Well,
But
I read an interview with the director, and he was saying that, they were really a little bit torn about how to handle it because of just the length of the stage production. You know,
yeah,
they felt that they tried to cram everything into one film, the content would really be damaged, which they did not want to do.
yeah,
And also the fact that because they gave themselves permission to do it in two parts, in the first part at least, I don't know what they're going to be doing in the second, but at least in the first part, it gave them an opportunity to expand the character development.
yeah, to really develop that relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
get the feeling through the
And,
fun.
and in terms of giving the audience an opportunity to get to know these individuals better than what actually happened in the stage play. I mean, I haven't seen the stage play, but I know people who have, and they've told me that it's like they throw a lot of stuff at you, really quickly. And
Yeah,
if you're not really paying attention, you can easily get, lost or bowled over by it. This film took the time to develop that in a way so that you really feel like you know these people. And that
yeah.
makes a big difference in storytelling. I really have to give them credit for that. So let's hope part two, which comes out next year, lives up to the same level that this one does.
Plus, the two leads from the stage production were included in here
Yes.
with, and Adina Menzel and Ariana Grande's actually was her mentor. Geez, Frankie, what was her name?
Oh, Kristen Chenoweth?
Kristen
Yeah.
Chenoweth, thank you.
Yeah.
Was her mentor since Ariana was like a little girl. So she's really looked up to her and she's had a lot out of her. So I thought that was really a nice touch to put them both in the movie as a
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I might sound like I'm gushing on this one, which is something I don't usually
Yeah, you
do.
don't normally do that. So that's pretty cool.
But this one gets 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. I think you're going to see this come up to be a big winner as award season plays out. It's
And the
already been
cliffhanger was right at the right place. Like they left it right at the right place.
Yeah, exactly. It's already received several award wins and several award nominations, and it's just the tip of the iceberg at this point. I think you're going to see a lot more honors come the way of this picture. And on Oscar night, I would not be surprised to see this one walk away with
Whatever.
a lot of hardware because it really like I say, it's really well done all the way around. And frankly, 2024 has not been the greatest movie year, so it doesn't really have a lot of competition.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it should be winning by default, but it just seems to be head and shoulders above so many of the other releases that came out this year that I think it may end up, you know, walking away with quite a bit. So,
All
and
right.
deservedly so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deservedly so.
Let's see. How much-
Okay, so next we have another one of the better releases that have come out this year, and that's the comedy drama A Real Pain, which is a very personal project for actor, writer, director Jesse Eisenberg. Tells the story of two cousins who were quite close when they were young, but have drifted apart as they've gotten older, who embark on a pilgrimage to Poland on a Jewish heritage tour, which was a gift from their late grandmother. She wanted them to learn about their background, their legacy, their heritage. But in addition to that, it provides them with an opportunity to kind of reconnect with one another. And it's interesting in the fact that they get to see things about their relationship and they get to see things about themselves that they maybe hadn't fully considered. As they're approaching middle age, it gives them an opportunity to assess these different things. And you have two very different characters here in the fact that Jesse Eisenberg is rather subdued. He's a family man. He's stable, holds a steady job. And his cousin, Kieran Culkin, is still kind of a wild man from his youth who hasn't really settled down, but also maybe wrestling with some mental health issues, given the fact that a lot of times his behavior and his reactions to things
Right.
are kind of unpredictable, and people don't always quite know what to make of them. So it gives a very interesting relationship study between these two characters. It gives them an opportunity to do a lot of introspection and soul searching about themselves. And it's the kind of story that you typically don't see a lot of being portrayed in the films, which is one of the things I really liked about this. It's received a lot of praise for its writing and for its performances, particularly Kieran Culkin. I mean, he's just outstanding in this. Um, and it's a film that anybody who has kind of gone on a search for self or a
Mm,
journey of self-discovery might very well get a lot out of this. Particularly when it comes to looking for the source of getting the inspiration you might need to learn about yourself. I think the two characters in this film go into this expecting these great revelations to come forward about either themselves, their family, their relationship. Um, but is that necessarily the case? It's more to me a situation of getting to know yourself is something that begins with you. It begins
yeah.
internally, and that in itself is a big revelation for the characters as they work their way through this story. So this is another one that I'm very impressed with. I had seen the trailer for it over the summer. And I thought, maybe it'll be okay. But I came out of the theater really having been much more impressed by this than I thought I was going to be when I went in. Now, there are a few places where sometimes the connection between what's taking place and what's going on with them isn't always drawn maybe as clearly as it could have been. And sometimes it might be a little bit confusing to the viewer because the level of unpredictability, particularly in Kieran Culkin's character, can be a little maybe extreme, maybe disconcerting in that regard.
Hmm.
But when you put it all together, I mean, it's all part of the portrait that they're painting of these two characters. And I think it's crucial to have that there so that you get to know them as individuals as well. So I like this one a lot. It's playing in theaters. I'd recommend go seeing it.
I have an unfair prejudice, if you want to call it that, to Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know why. I've just never liked him. Just never liked him. And I'm sorry, Jesse. It's unfair. It's like sometimes you just see somebody, you go, I don't like them. I don't know.
He plays characters that can be kind of abrasive, and I think that may turn off an awful lot of people.
Maybe.
I mean, when you look, for example, at his breakout role in The Social Network, where he was playing Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, what a jerk! I mean, it kind of reached the point where I almost couldn't stand him by the end of the movie either.
Yeah, yeah.
But those are the kinds of
I know
characters
it's
he
a character.
specializes.
Yeah, I know it's a
And
character.
and
It's
that's one of the
unfair.
things I found interesting about this movie is the fact that he plays somebody who's much more subdued than he usually does. He's really kind of playing against type,
Mm,
which showed me that he's got more of a range than he's previously let viewers know.
hmm.
So I have to give him kudos for that because, he found a way to rein it in more here than he may have
Well, you would
typically.
have to if you have to give Culkin his
Oh,
craziness.
yeah, and Culkin was just I was stunned at how good he was. I mean, when I watched this film, I kept saying to myself, this guy's going to be an award nominee. This guy's going to be an award nominee. And so far, that's definitely turning out to be the case. He won the National Board of Review Award for Best Supporting Actor. He's nominated for a Golden Globe. I believe he's nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. And I mean, he deserves absolutely every one of those accolades because he turns in a part that I never would have expected out of him.
Yeah. And sometimes though, if the straight guy doesn't do the straight part, the crazy guy can't do the crazy. So it's almost like they're helping you get that, right?
Yeah, and from what I understand, when I was reading in the production notes too, a lot of what Culkin did in his performance was improvised.
Mm,
And Eisenberg said, "Hey, this works. Let's leave it in." I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
so that shows a real
The generosity on
awareness,
his part too.
yeah, a real awareness, knowledge, and depth of the character,
Yeah.
so that it makes it seem that much more natural, even though he's, somebody on screen who's doing some oftentimes very crazy things. But um, I like this one a lot. I'm going to give this one 4 stars.
All right.
Okay, so next we have a movie that has been kind of surprisingly overlooked this
Yeah.
award season, and that's Lee, which tells the film biography of Lee Miller, who was a former fashion model turned World War II photographic field correspondent. And it features Kate Winslet in the lead role in one of her best performances ever. Um,
I
she
love this.
really doesn't hold anything back in terms of her performance in this one. Film follows her from the days when she more or less wrapped up her modeling career and was looking for something to do, and then somehow decided just to gravitate to becoming a war correspondent.
She was like a debutante almost, who
Yeah,
just did whatever she wanted, wherever she wanted, drank and did drugs, whatever, just hung out like a wild child. And then, yeah, and she
and the
some,
thing is, she was fairly adept at photography beforehand,
yeah,
but a
yeah.
lot of it was artistic and surrealistic imagery, and also certainly related to, her modeling and fashion career.
But
Never
this
did
was
she do anything related
truly,
to,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, never did she do anything related to going out to a war zone and covering it.
yeah.
But she ended up capturing some of the most compelling images taken during World War II.
Not only
Uh,
compelling, but dangerous and she was there and doing stuff
yes.
that men weren't doing. It was crazy.
Well, and in particular, the sequences where it shows her taking the photos at the concentration camps,
Yes.
which was something that most people knew very little about at the time. And her reaction to, I've got to get the picture, I've got to get the story here. Just
And
being
the
unflinching.
disappointment that the magazine didn't accept them and take them
Yes,
was, like I was at that camp and I couldn't even stomach it and nobody was even in the rooms, it was
yes,
horrible to even walk around. But, that she's taking these pictures, she's hoping that they're going to be seen. People need to see them. And they go,
yes.
well, it's kind of not nice. We don't really want to show that. That's the whole point.
Yep,
They weren't nice.
exactly.
They weren't nice. Yeah,
Exactly.
and the relationship with her son, and like that was really something that was really well done the way that they did that, because
Yes.
I'm not going to blow that for you guys. It was well done.
Now, the thing that really surprised me about this is, I mean, there's been a lot of buzz circulating about this movie beforehand about, this could very well result in Kate Winslet winning her second Oscar. And when I first saw the trailer for it back in September, I thought, oh, this looks like, one of the big movies of award
Yeah,
season. And in a big city where I live, like Chicago, a mecca for arts, culture, movies, etc., it played in one theater for one
yeah,
week
yeah.
and just came and went. And I thought, wait a second, I didn't get a chance to go see this
Like,
yet.
there's been a plethora of World War II movies this in the last couple months, right? That
Yes.
all came out. Like this thing is like a big thing. I don't know why, but a plethora of them. And yeah, I don't understand why this was overlooked because it really wasn't amazing.
Now
Amazing.
the now the fact that Kate Winslet has picked up a Golden Globe nomination for Best Dramatic Actress for this film, you may see it circle back into theaters again. I mean, it is available for streaming right now, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
not hard to find if you want to see it. But I think it may possibly make a return to the movie screen because it deserves more attention than it received. I was really very impressed with the way this film was pulled off. It can be a little episodic at times in terms of saying, well, then there's this story, and then there's this story, and then there's this story. But, in the greater scheme of things, that's not something that I'm going to like really hold against it in terms of the way it told the story, especially given how vividly and how accurately this has, relayed her biography. So I recommend this one highly. Although I would caution sensitive viewers to be aware that it does contain some difficult imagery.
Yeah. And nudity.
But then again, uh, you don't see a lot of performances as powerful as this one does, or one that does justice to its subject material and its character as this film does. So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one also 4 stars.
I would too. I would too, definitely. All right.
Okay. So speaking of World War II movies, we have another one that kind of came and went from theaters very quickly, but
I
it's
just don't
more than,
understand that. It's like, man, the good ones don't stick around.
yeah. Well, this one was a little bit strange in the fact that it was in theaters, went away, and then came back, which you
I
don't
never even
see
saw it at the theater.
very often. But
Yeah.
this is Whitebird, which is a movie that tells the story of a young high school student who has some trouble fitting into his new school. He ended up having to go there because he was expelled from his previous institution, and he has problems with fitting in and with being accepting of others, with others being accepting of him. And one day when he comes home from school, he's met by his visiting grandmother who lives in Paris, played by Helen Mirren. And the two of them start having a conversation, and Helen Mirren's character ends up telling her young grandson her story of when she was a young Jewish girl during World War II in France, and how she managed to evade capture by the Nazis by going into hiding by a family that were members of the French resistance.
And
And
she's a famous artist to that
yeah,
date too. And
yeah,
she's,
she ends up relating her story to her grandson about how these people took care of her, how they looked after her, how they protected her, and the many steps that they went to, given the fact that they weren't Jewish themselves, to help safeguard somebody in these circumstances. Um, it's a movie that in many ways provides a very teachable moment for young adults. And
yep.
that's one of the things I liked about this is the fact that it did that, and it did a great job of the way it did it. It wasn't condescending. It wasn't like
Wasn't creepy.
overly sugar-coated. Um, it wasn't overly graphic. I mean, you don't want to scare the kids off from learning about this stuff either, but it told things pretty frankly in terms of what the young girl was up against, and about the young boy in particular who helped protect her, who was a polio victim. And he had his own challenges that he was having to deal with in terms of being scorned and marginalized the way she was. That they make kind of an interesting odd couple of sorts in terms of
Yeah.
their relationship with one another. But
And karma too, because the young man, he put
yes,
them all away.
yes. And, it's a case where, grandma ended up surviving and being able to go on and do her art and to use her art to convey the same kinds of messages that the story was relating to the grandson about tolerance, acceptance, um, you know, things
Not
that
bullying people.
are kind of in shorter supply these days than they probably should be. And that fortunately, you have an opportunity here for that message to be conveyed to somebody young and impressionable at a point when you can still affect and influence, their outlooks and their perspectives in their lives.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think it was important too, because he said, okay, well, from now on, I'm not going to get involved and I'm not going to do anything. Like, I'll just
yeah,
be nothing, right? Just there. And she goes, well, you can't do that. Like, you can't bully and you can't not get involved. Like, there's the middle road too, right? Where you have
yes,
to stand up. And I think that was an important part of that message is you can't just be a bystander.
absolutely, absolutely. And Helen Mirren, as always, is just perfect in these kinds of parts. I
And
mean,
her French is just superb. She's just got the very best French accent. I think she must have lived there for quite a bit of time or something because she really has an amazing French accent.
So as I mentioned earlier, this one has been in and out of theaters twice, but it is available for streaming now. So if anybody wants to catch it,
It's a
it's
good
it's
one.
easy to find, and it's worth the time. It's a really,
Get
it's
your
a good
tissues out.
film. Yeah. Um, it's very typical of the work of the director who made this movie, Mark Forster. He makes an awful lot of movies that are very targeted toward young adults, and he does a great job always when he's doing it because he does so again without being without talking down to his audience, without resorting to a lot of oversimplification or condescension. Uh, he
Well,
did
isn't
he
there
did a
another
really
one coming out? Like he did Wonder, but isn't there a second part to Wonder coming out? I thought I
yeah,
saw.
well actually this is a sort of a sequel to Wonder. The lead character from the school
Mhm.
is the same character who was in Wonder.
Okay.
He doesn't have as big a part in this story as he did in the other film, but yeah, and from what I understand, I guess there are other books in the Wonder series that
I thought I
I
saw a
mean,
movie trailer in the theater coming out. Wonder, but he's older now, a little
yeah,
bit older, but not
yeah.
not this movie. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I saw
Well,
something.
Wonder, if I'm not mistaken, was made in 2017. So I mean, he has definitely aged,
Right.
since then. But as I understand, I think there are several other books in the series, and I'm not sure if they've been slated for being turned into movies yet, but um, they very well could be. So,
Yeah.
so I really like that one. I'm going to give it 3.5.
Okay. I give it a little bit higher. I think I liked it a lot.
Well, the one I thought it sagged a little bit in the middle, and I thought some of the dialogue could have been a little crisper, but on balance, I thought it was a decent film. So.
Yeah, I was
Um,
emotionally charged by it.
Now, next, we have a film that again, this is another one that came and went from theaters
I
really
can't even
quickly.
get it here, and I'm sick because I really want to see it so bad. And I
Yeah,
love her. I love
yeah, and it's available for streaming in the US, but it's not available in Canada yet. Doesn't mean it won't be at some point,
her. Yeah.
but it's not available just yet. But it's Exhibiting Forgiveness, which tells the story of a successful artist who his work is very much in demand and things seem to be going, really well with his career. But he's got a troubled past, having grown up under an abusive father, and he basically walked away from his dad, said he didn't want anything to do with him. And just now that he's at the time when things are going really well in his life, dad shows back up. And he doesn't quite know what to make of it. He's having to reconcile his feelings from the past. He's also having to reconcile some undue pressure from his mother, who's actually encouraging him to make an effort to get to know his dad again, even though she herself was also very much taken for granted when they were married. Um, so he's, going through these internal struggles in terms of trying to figure all this out. Um, and the artist, played here by Andre Holland, gives one of his best performances I think I've ever seen. I've always liked his work, but he's very, very strong here. And his mother, also played by Ingenue Ellis Taylor, who is really a real
Love her.
spitfire. Yeah, she's a real spitfire in this movie. And his wife, played by Andra Day, who doesn't have as much of a part in this movie as maybe I would have liked her to have, but she still plays an important role in the fact that as he's struggling to go through all this, this is beginning to have something of an impact on their marriage as well.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the probably most revelatory performances here is the actor who plays his dad, John Earl Jelks. He's mostly done TV work up to this point, but he really shows, a range here that I haven't seen him turn in previously. So you've got a really good ensemble cast telling the story. But
Nice.
interestingly enough, the paintings that this artist creates were actually done by the director himself.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, and they appear, well, as you can see in the poster, they appear in the background there, but also they appear throughout the film, almost as if the paintings themselves are characters in the story, which I found a really interesting way of treating this subject.
Yeah.
Um, this is a debut feature from the filmmaker Titus Kaphar, and I'm very taken with what he did with this film because I think it shows that not only is he outstanding as a painter, but he's also outstanding as a filmmaker. And I'm interested to see, what he does going forward from here. Um, this can be a tough watch at times because it gets very emotionally gritty and can be a little bit on the raw side, but it's powerful, not only in terms of showing, what the artist went through, but how it ended up being kind of an inspiration for his work,
Mhm.
and also in terms of how it was able to get him to understand the concept of forgiveness. And that's again something else that we could always use more of these days, particularly for those who go through ordeals like he did when he was a kid. It's a
Yeah.
very moving story in many ways. So if you're in the US, fortunately, you'll be able to find it via streaming. In
Yeah.
Canada, well, you might have to wait a little while, but I do hope it becomes available to you because I
Me
think
too.
you'll really end up liking this one. And I would end up giving this one 4 stars.
All right.
Okay, so those are our featured films. One thing I wanted to close off with is I wanted to make mention of two blog posts that I put up on my website that are offering summaries of the films that I saw at the Chicago Film Festival and the Black Harvest Film Festival, both of which featured some very good offerings this year. Now, one thing I want to say in advance, I want to apologize to viewers and listeners just in case they're not able to get through to the site right away. It's undergoing some maintenance right now. It's been kind of up and down periodically, but if you don't get to it the first time you're there, definitely check back. The Chicago Film Festival wrap up profiles 7 movies. The Black Harvest Festival features 6 movies. And there's 2 films in particular I wanted to talk a little bit about from Black Harvest that are really quite good. The first one is The Black Sea, which just opened up in theaters, so it is available to see in general distribution. Um, it's a second chances fish out of water story about a man from Brooklyn who's got great ideas and great ambitions, but just seems to have trouble pulling his life together. And he has an opportunity to start over by going to Bulgaria, of all places, and becoming the companion of a sugar mama. But one of the things that's kind of unfortunate is hours before he arrives there, she dies. So he's left without any of the money he's been promised. He's been left without a place to stay, a way to get home. So he's having to kind of adjust to figure out a new way for himself. And it's a movie that's charming, funny, enjoyable, but also,
Is it in
gives
English or subtitles?
it's in English. I mean, there's some that's subtitled, but he's American, so I mean, he does all his speaking in English, and several of the other characters speak English as well. So you get kind of a mix there. But this is uh, a movie that was directed and stars an actor named Derek Harden. It's his debut feature. He's somebody to watch. I think he is somebody who has got quite a future ahead of him because he's got an infectious charisma that you can't help but like, especially with the character he's playing here, who is scrambling any way he can to get by and figure out a way to survive. I mean, how many African American men are there running around small towns in Bulgaria,
Yeah.
Um, but he's accepted, he's warmly welcomed, and he realizes that he's found a new home in a place where he least likely expected, especially in light of the fact that his plans didn't pan out. as he was hoping for. So as I say, this one played at the festival. It's now in general distribution. I'm not sure how widely at this point, but if you get a chance to go see it, you go catch it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this one. I give it 4 out of 5. And the other one that I really like from the Black
That's what I
Harvest
want to see.
Festival is a movie, an independent film called Color Book, which tells the story of a recently widowed single father who's struggling to care for his 11-year-old son who's afflicted with Down syndrome. And it's so warm and touching, but it does so in a way that does not feel phony. It feels very genuine. It feels very authentic. The chemistry between the dad and the son is just so authentic. Um, and it's a simple story in the fact that, he knows that dad knows that his son just lost his mom and he's probably feeling a little depressed. So to help cheer his spirits, he wants to take him to his first baseball game.
Mm.
And they end up going through this kind of grand adventure, all running around Atlanta to get him to the baseball game on time. And it's funny, it's touching. Um, it's been cleaning up in the film festivals where it's been playing in terms of like audience awards. Um, I don't believe it has a general distributor lined up just yet, but it certainly deserves it. And if you get a chance to go see it when it comes out, by all means, go see it. Beautifully filmed in black and white, fine performances. And it's amazing how you can get so much mileage out of a story as simple as what's told in this film. So, again, this is another one I recommend highly. I'm giving this one 4.5 out of 5.
Awesome. Well, good
So,
job. Well, there you go,
yeah,
then.
I
Something
mean,
to look forward to, something to see right now. And what a way
yeah,
to, spend
well,
your
I
holiday.
mean, yeah, I mean, we're at the peak of award season right now, so you've got a lot more movies that are going to be coming out, and we'll have more to talk about next month. But basically, the one thing I've been a little bit surprised about this year is that the award season entries have been kind of slow to be rolled out. In recent years, it's been November when a lot of them have been released, and this year only a handful of them have been put out so far. And they seem to be holding them back. I know they used to do that years ago because they wanted the movies to be as fresh in the minds of Academy
Yeah.
voters as possible. And the problem with that was that you had everything coming out all at once at the end of December, and you ended up creating like this cinematic logjam.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Difficult
lot
for
of kids
people.
movies out right now, a lot of kids stuff I
Yeah,
saw. We didn't mention Gladiator on the show.
no.
I mean, it's got big stars, but not very great reviews. So,
Yeah, that's kind of the one of the things that sort of held me back from that. I mean, I've read that it's been kind of sort of a warmed over version of the original. The only thing I've heard that's really been outstanding about it has been the performance of Denzel Washington,
which I
who
expect.
was nominated for a Golden Globe for supporting actor.
Yeah,
But I haven't seen a whole lot else, a lot of attention sent its way. Um, Two other movies that I've yet to see that I'm kind of looking forward to. They got a lot of attention with the Golden Globe Award nominations. They're both on Netflix. One is Maria, which tells the story of Maria Callas with
yes, yeah,
Angelina Jolie. It's being looked upon as Angelina Jolie's comeback movie. I'd like to hope so. I mean, I haven't
yeah,
seen her do anything really good for a while.
yeah,
And also Amelia Perez, which is a Mexican transgender musical,
yeah.
um, which that one picked up a boatload of nominations.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was a little surprised because some of the critics' reviews of that one in advance were a little bit lukewarm also. But we'll see. I hope to catch those this weekend. So, um, and then there's also another one that was supposed to be out by now. I don't know why it hasn't been released. A movie called September 5th, which is a movie about the day that the Olympics in
Yes,
Munich were
I
attacked.
saw the trailer this past weekend.
It looks very compelling.
Yeah,
Um,
very, very compelling. Really good. Looks really,
particularly in terms of the journalistic ethics questions that are involved with the movie, in terms of
yeah,
um,
because the sports guys are there.
which side gets the coverage here. Does the sports
Yeah,
department get
sports
it, or
guys are
does the news
there, right?
department?
They're like, hey, this is our story. And they're like, but you've never done anything like this. So
Exactly.
it's our story, right? Yeah. And the ethical part of it, just, are they seeing what we're seeing? Like, can we show this? Should we show this? How should we stop them from doing what they're doing? It's really, really going to be a good movie, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, so pay attention to what's going on in the theaters, and pay attention to what's going on with streaming, because a lot of stuff seems to be migrating from the theater to streaming really fast these days. Um, I
Oh
mean,
my
as
God.
you saw
Yeah.
just with several of the films, here, and that was a fairly big deal back at the height of the pandemic, but I haven't seen it pick up with quite the same pace as it has recently. I mean, they've really been, you know, pushing the pictures through the pipelines to get them
Yeah.
accessible. But I think part of that has to do with the fact that there's still an awful lot of people who have not returned to
Yes.
theaters.
Yes.
I mean, when I saw Wicked, that was the most crowded I've seen a theater in I don't know how long. But
Yeah.
almost everything else I've gone to, you can kind of you kind of pick your seats almost in terms of where you want to sit.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What did I see last weekend? It was packed, but this theater seems smaller. So
yeah.
it's not like the big, big theater anymore, right? They're little. And yeah, it,
Well, yeah, that happened to me this past weekend. This is another movie that we'll be looking at next month. Amy Adams' new movie, Night Bitch,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is hilarious and insightful. So, I mean, we'll talk about that more next time. But um, yeah, when I got to the theater, it was me and my partner, and we were the only
Oh,
ones there.
it was Bonhoeffer.
Yeah,
That's what I went to see. That was packed. But surprised me because it didn't give it good times. It didn't give it, a prime time.
yeah,
Yeah. But it was a good movie. I liked it. That's what I'm saying. All these World War II movies.
yeah. And there have been others that came out and went also. There was one that came out about 2 months ago called um, Across the River and Through the Woods with Liev Schreiber.
Yeah.
That came and went in a week, but it
Yeah.
was another World War II movie. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't know why
um,
they're doing these World War II movies, but I guess because they're afraid of World War III. I don't know.
well, I mean, there were so many compelling stories that came out of World War II from so many different angles, and I think you've got a lot of rich material there that's related to more than just the battlefront pictures you're typically used to seeing with World War II.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which is good. I mean, I appreciate the diversity in the storytelling. Um, and there've been, good stories to come out of them. So my feeling is more power to them. They want to tell their stories, go right ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate
take
it.
take care,
And
everybody.
take care on Facebook. And we'll stop that. All right. Recording